Moving forward, we delve deep into one of the most critical transition for any NBFC, overcoming legacy systems. I now welcome our moderator, Mr. Venkatesh Kannappan, MD and CEO, Haham Housing Finance. So this session is going to be overcoming legacy system, the path to modernization. Joining him on his esteemed panel, we have Mr. Sumit Sharma, founder Radiant Finserv, Mr. Kumaran Sampath, MD and CEO, Egma Capital Services Private Limited, Mr. Balaji TK, AVP IT Flexi Loans, and Mr. Varun Kular, Head BFSI Lead Squared. Can you all put your hands together for all the moderators and the speakers?
Everyone, thanks to BTB to invite me and the fellow panelists here. I think most of the faces here are most of us are repeat participants here. I think so, but the audience keeps changing. Now, the topic that we would be dealing for the next 15-20 minutes is about the legacy systems in various organizations and how do we modernize. By the way, this is going to be one subject where this can be conducted year on year because what we spoke 2 years back, 3 years back, is today being talked as legacy systems and all. So, what possibly the stalls here and the discussions that we make, it's valid for 3-4 years. After then we would be possibly called in legacy or legacy systems and all. Having said that, I just want to set the context before I open discussions with my fellow panelists. The biggest challenge that we see is the moment we install something, it's 2-3 years, we fully implement, we go live, actually go live, it's 2 years, and by the time our team in an organization like ours get used to what has been recently implemented, then there's going to be a next set of change requests coming from business leaders, from people who join from other companies, and all that. They again talk us that we are redundant systems and all that. And it's going to be a ever-changing, ever-demanding situation. So a team should be ready with a kind of framework, a stand-up framework to take up modernization. There has to be some identification process. A team has to be continuously working on that. Now that's the requirement, a basic requirement for any organization. So with that note, I thought I'll have some introduction made about the panelists. One, Mr. T.K. Balaji, who's joined us from Flexi Loans, a company which is a marketplace, more into unsecured loans and all that. I know them having started 2-3 years back. Now we are 3,000 crores AEM company, very rapidly grown unsecured financier. Maybe we'll prick his brains to take his inputs, some organizational insights that they had. And I'm sure they would have done what we are talking many times. So we'll take his brain. Then we have Kumaran Sampath, my old colleague and a friend of mine. Apart from being in financial, is an athlete, holding a lot of records in marathoning and cricketing and all that. Very familiar figure in our fraternity. Joining us from Egma Capital, I think his business is more into co-lending, and they're getting into leasing business. Not only lending, they're getting into leasing business now. Followed by Kumaran, we have Varun from Bangalore, running Lead Square, company which manages the loan originating systems, collection modules, and Varun represents Lead Square. And we have a founder of a startup, an NBFC fintech, Ravian, by name Mr. Sumit, and promoter who's focusing on Tier 2, Tier 3 cities to do gold loans, unsecured loans, and a couple of other loans on a phygital model where the sourcing happens. Part of his business operations are digital, and part of it, the fulfillment part, is more done out of the brick and mortar office. So we have a diversified panel here, and I represent a housing finance company, fully secured business, long tenured loans, highly complied business models from the Reserve Bank and all that. So we'll jointly try to put up a good discussion for you. The first question that I have is to Mr. Varun from Lead Square on some successful strategies that you have heard about, maybe you would have implemented or you would have picked up something where a legacy system was replaced by a modern IT system. Some experiences that you have, and I'm sure your pitch to various NBFCs would be to modernize their existing system. So, what do you identify? What are the challenges that you see, and whom do you think is a fitting customer for you so that you're going to really solve a problem for a NBFC? So, over to you, Mr. Varun.
Yeah, so thanks, Venkat. So I think, see, what's really happening in this space, and you all would know already, is that fundamentally most NBFCs have either got very limited digital systems or they are fragmented in nature. Meaning they will have an LMS and they will have some form of an LOS, and there will be no collection system or there will be no servicing system, right? And the reason for that is an NBFC will fundamentally say, hey, let me just stick to the core business, I'll just do that. And that has been what legacy is defined as. So, what is legacy? Legacy is like, oh, I have one system, things are working fine for me. But I think fundamentally what's happening now is that orientation has to change. And we were discussing with Sumit as well prior to this conversation, was that the regulation with which it is moving, as well as the competition with which the competition is coming along, as well as the customer. The customer, I mean, our end customer, our actual borrower, the way the customer is changing, all of these three have to is basically like is causing this need for change. So legacy systems can no longer work. I don't think it's a question of the need for change is it has to be changing, right? And so as Lead Squared, we've been labeling a lot of these NBFCs for this. And let me give you a few tactical examples. What it means is fundamentally that, for instance, the sales persona and the credit and the operations personas, uh, basically the teams in any NBFC, have to talk seamlessly with each other. In legacy systems, typically it didn't happen. Basically, because the salesperson is fundamentally not connected to the credit person via via a common system. So how do we do that? The way we do that is via an LOS, which also enables nudges to the sales app, and any file can seamlessly move between the sales and the credit person. So the query management becomes faster, right? This is one example. Another example is between the LMS and collections. Like, we typically still have bulk uploads, right? Of files which have to be, whatever, files, applications which have to be collected. Now, those are things which still exist. There is a huge scope for that to get digitized as well. So just giving a couple of these examples, and I think now the eventual focus is on business outcomes. What is your turnaround time? In PL, is it less than 5 minutes? In housing loan, is it less than 15 days? Can you further bring it down to 5 days? Right? Because that is important. The customer will make a decision quickly once and he decides you have to service the loan. Right? So I think those business outcomes is what we have to move towards. And I think the new systems have to make those work. And hence the legacy systems are legacy.
Hello. Thank you, Varun. Maybe if you could also help us understand, because the moment you get into make a pitch to a customer, these guys have any NBFC will have an legacy system which may be good. So how do you measure that it's not so good, or what is the value chain that you would bring in for the kind of investments that an NBFC would be doing? Because there's a roadmap for an NBFC, there's some cost budgets on which their whole modernization is driven. The moment if you go and say, so what are the kind of reactions that you have, or what are the kind of feedbacks that you have from a typical NBFC like ours to accept? And what are the cost benefit measurements do you have? Because you're not going to see the measure, at least to my knowledge, you don't see a advantage of implementing a new stuff within the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months. By 1, 2 years, this is again legacy. What Lead Square would have given day one possibly can become legacy as one more person. So, how much of change an NBFC should actually look at taking? I'm asking a very practical question. Or what is that the pitch that you would make, or what is the convincing thing that you give to an NBFC to buy a product or take an implementation plan?
It's an excellent question. So, see, as an economic buyer, um, the CTO of an NBFC and the CFO has to fundamentally justify the ROI of the system. Your question is around ROI. Now, how is the ROI measured for any technology that you are using? It's fundamentally about what is the value that it is driving. And I had mentioned in my previous conversation that it is all about, hey, I am launching a new product. For instance, I'm going from two-wheeler to four-wheeler loans, or I'm going to used car as well. So a practical example is NBFCs come to us and say, hey, I'm launching a new loan type. How fast can you go to market for me? And for them, time is money. So if we tell them, hey, we can make you go live in 2 months, versus anybody else in the market which is taking almost like 6 months to go live, that's a big value prop. We are saving 4 months of their go live cycle. I think that is point number one. So time to go live, which translates into revenue. The second is we also have, and typically I think I will urge all of you to think like that, that every software or every tool should have a performance linked element to it. So if the AUM grows by so much, or if the productivity grows by so much, there should be a certain bonus as a fees which should be ascribed. So what that gives is, or what that provides is a skin in the game for all technology providers. So to answer your question, I think Venkat, you have to have a skin in the game. Gone are the days that you give a tool and walk off.
Yeah. I
Okay,
hear you, Varun. I'll be back with a couple of more questions around
may
it.
I step in?
Sure, Sumit, please.
Sorry to interrupt. So I thought I'll just answer that question through the prism of a user. So here's someone who actually provides that information. So just to give you the background, we are a 2.5-year-old organization, and we are going through this debate or discussion as to what kind of system do we employ or engage with. Again, by way of background, we are a small organization, bootstrapped. We're not taken any meaningful funding at this point in time, and NBFCs can't grow without money. So we are in that mode of growing organically and so on. And as part of that, we have tried to make our limited resources stretch as much as possible. And when we started, we were starting off Excel sheets. And over a period of time, we thought we'll develop our own LOS, LMS, gave up the idea because ultimately it is commoditized. We are getting that service without spending significant sums of money. Now, to the point around how and when it becomes meaningful, there's a lot of value in actually streamlining the processes. And if the system offering actually provides that, Warren made the point that one part of the organization doesn't talk to the other, sales versus I don't know, service or collections and so on and so forth. And if that common factor is achieved through an effective system, I think it's useful. That being said, let's also go back some 20-25 years. Lending still used to happen even before computers came into existence. Forget softwares. So obviously there is a fundamental offering that can work. But what such systems do is to bring about efficiency, and any organization which is looking to scale ultimately has to bring in efficiency. So I think that's where it comes in. To the question that you'd asked, Venkatesh, about what all should be considered, I mean, from a user's perspective, my single word answer would be around efficiency and the impact that it actually makes. And happy to talk about that in more detail.
Sumit, since you took that question, and I'm sure you're an Excel turned what you call automation fellow like us. So while we started, we were completely on Excel. The first 2 years of business, we started at mid of COVID. In fact, our company was born mid of COVID, and first 2 years we put the cost element as one of the strongest priorities to either take something or not to take something. So the first 2 years we were in Excel, and then we thought we will partly automate our processes. Then we took up few areas where we wanted to automate. Then we kept on adding the automations, and today we are end-to-end digital or end-to-end automated company. Most of our processes are there. But while I know the couple of challenges that we have uh, in adopting an IT solution when you had nothing. But in your case, what were the challenges that you felt? Maybe from the team side or from because now we're very small companies. Practically, we are not STFCs of the world and all that to take a CTO level decision. Today, the promoters have to get involved who are not IT fellows. So,
Yeah.
so what are the challenges that you had actually faced? I'm not sure if you're an IT background, that fellow, or a,
No, no, let me answer that. I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not from an IT
So
background.
then it's becoming all the more difficult for somebody to know, really visualize what is the kind of benefits that you may derive. What exactly were the challenges that you had for you to adopt a new system? So for you, legacy system was Excel. From Excel to a,
Yeah, I mean, we moved beyond Excel, just so that, but there is almost a never-ending journey. And you made the point, Venkatesh, earlier that whatever you build today, that these conferences should be happening every year or words to that effect, because things keep changing so fast. So we have a couple of systems that are built in, and I guess these days nothing is complete unless you bring in some element of AI. So we also have that to take the box. But to the question that as to what were the challenges or what were we looking at, so first and foremost, for a small organization with limited resources, there's an element of cost versus benefit. There are extremely useful, but very costly, at least from my perspective, um, options available. So that's point number one. Second, for a new organization, there is no baggage that you are carrying. But many organizations, once they start to shift from one type of functionality to the more refined one, there is an inherent change in the organization that needs to be brought in, which call it culture, call it training, call it the readiness of the people, and so on and so forth. And I think that becomes a very significant input factor for the success or the lack of it for the new offering. I guess it's fair to say that efficiency speaks for itself. The ease of usage speaks for itself. So that's not probably an input for, or that's not a deterrent, but certainly the two things that I've mentioned, one is around the cost, second is around the culture element of the organization, especially if you have some baggage to try and turn it around. For instance, we were speaking to a very large organization about providing a service, and our internal assessment was that they will never change because they are extremely successful in what they're doing. And the discussion, without necessarily disclosing a lot of names over here, was around trying to bring about some change in efficiency into their process by tying up with us. And our assessment was that that will never happen with them, simply because of them being very comfortable in the system. So that's the element of culture and so on that sort of comes in. Beyond that, I can keep speaking, but since you asked the key things, those are the sort of issues come to mind.
yeah. Next, I wanted Mr. Balaji. I think I have a specific question for you. On see, today you have most of the operations of a company is with most of other vendors, different vendors. I know companies, I've worked in those companies where LOS is part of some company like FinOne. The accounting softwares are with different company. You have an LMS from a different company. You have various other vendors offering various other solutions, but how do you integrate them? So my first question is that having a different vendor for different processes in the same company, is that a legacy way of doing it only? First question to that. Or is it still a modern way of having 5 vendors to manage or break down your processes into various stage 1 and stage 2 and stage 3 and then give it different? Is that legacy or that's a modern way of doing it? Because there's going to be an expert coming in each of it. So is that the good way to do that? Or you have one vendor who manages end to end. Is that a legacy way of doing it? And how do we integrate? Suppose we choose to do the first one. How do we integrate A and B and C in the same system? So do we have a vendor or do we have a system to integrate only? Something around it, since you are a newborn.
Thank you. Thanks, BTV, for organizing such a wonderful event. Thanks, Venkat, for prompting that great question. Uh, what I would say is, there is no that one solution fits for all the NBFCs or a fintech. Okay, which works best for you? That's a saying like tech debt is the only debt where you can't even restructure it. Uh, what I would say is, predominantly look into there is a 5 systems of engagement with you. One is system of record. We call it as SOR. System of record is predominantly your LOS, where the customer data is saving everything. Okay. And then next will coming is the system of engagement, where which is front ending with the customers, your web app, your WhatsApp app, your chat, voice chat, whatever which is front ending with the customer. This is called a system of engagement. This is where you can do a lot many things. Then comes system of intelligent. That's all your BI tools comes into the play. These are predominantly three types of system. I would say every NBFCs can able to adapt to it. Since these three systems are there, then there's a two more system where I would suggest is system of which gives a differentiation, like you can call it the SOD, which differentiates you from the others. So figure it out what is the system of differentiation. Then final thing is make it a system of like innovation, SY, where that's where your team can come keep trying everything, fail fast, and then bring it back. Okay. So since I talked about these five different systems, first three systems every NBFC predominantly mostly will be having it, a different tech will be having it. So there is no one solution fits for all. Across my experience, what I've seen is just to go legacy system, just don't try to deploy anything in the cloud, please, for heaven's sake. Because what happened, there's two things. One is running your legacy on cloud is different from build for the cloud. If you take the same software and run it in cloud, you're not utilizing the self-healing capability or the auto scaling, just don't do that. You should build for that. So whichever new product you are going, it should be built for that. Then only you're going to get the full capability out of it. So that's my one suggestion. Second thing is it should be a API first approach, since you are going to deal with multiple lenders, complete ecosystem. My product, what we do is on one end we integrate with multiple DSAs, multiple customers. On the other end, we do multiple lenders. See, if lender has got that API capability, straight away data comes and sits on his LOS straight away itself. So that's how the capability we bring it all about. So by and large, my suggestion is all the three systems which I talked about, just go back and see what is a system of intelligence, system of records, system of innovation. See whether you have the capability to build it in-house or you want to take the right vendor there, and each need to talk with each other. They keep talking in the terms of like northwest traffic, east there. That's nothing but how the two systems talk to each other. So that's what you need to build a roadmap for it and then bring the right tool for it. So that's my way of approach here.
Yeah, now Kumaran has assumed that the next question is to him only. Yeah. Kumaran, would you help us on understanding what should be the culture of an organization? I'm talking a very broad sense, in the sense, what should be the culture of an organization? Because there has to be a culture to adopt, or there should be a willingness to change. So you'll have too many developments in marketplace, but there might be a lot of resistance in our own organization to even look at some kind of what you call problem solving solutions available outside. So how do we induce or how do we implement a culture or how do we maintain a culture in an organization so that there is an adoption or there's a willingness to look outside for your own what you call to easing out or automating your processes and all that. Any practical examples that you had where you had to intervene and culture played a role, a mindset change made a role in making your workplace better?
Oh, absolutely fascinating. I think coming back to Chennai is always a pleasure, Venki, and having a wonderful leader and good friend like you is always really great to have on this session. So before I go to my topic and very interesting topic, so I would request all the gentlemen who are on the mobile phones can put in little light towards me. All the gentlemen who are on the phones. Yeah. So I have a question for all of you. Do you all know when was the first bank in the world launched? In which year was the first bank launched? Any guesses? We are all in the banking, right? Anyone? Okay. Nobody knows it. Do you all know when was the first NBFC launched in India? And which was its company? Nobody knows, right? Wow. Okay, when was RBI initiated or when was RBI launched? Anybody knows it? Wow. So that's where we are. So I would request anybody can just sound off people from behind. There's a very lot of sound around there. Yeah, so very interesting subject. How do we build an organization and the culture around it. The first bank in the world, I would say the Mother Earth, was launched in 1472. My God, I think that is too long a time. The first NBFC was launched in India in 1939. Okay, that was Muthoot Finance. Okay, and I asked, okay, another question. Which is the largest NBFC in India? We are all in the NBFC space. Yeah, I think my good friend Thiru said Bajaj. Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the culture and how do we reflect upon uh, different entities and how it can be very interesting for all of us. Do you all know when Sundaram Finance was launched? Any guesses? Sundaram Finance? Anyone? No idea? Okay, keep guessing and you can let me know later. I just met a gentleman who was heading the auto loans for South. He said, I am in this company for the last 34 years. Okay, what does it makes him to be in the entity for 34 years? Okay, so I'll leave aside, okay, what exactly happened in this entity and what it is. So how does an organization build its culture? Okay, how does an organization build its business? So I would straight away reflect upon one large entity which Thiru said, Bajaj Finance. So how do you reflect upon a culture? For me, I'm in the auto loans, so I look at customer to make sure the customers are delighted as they reach a decision point where they would want to buy a car. So they come to us. We have a very different way of looking at customers, and we ensure we don't use AI fully, but though partially we use, but we make sure we make a decision much faster. But I was actually trying to reflect upon, Venki said, you give an example. Though I had come prepared for something else, he said, okay, you need to talk like this. So just imagine where is Muthoot Finance today, okay, and where is Bajaj Finance today. The average ticket size of Muthoot Finance is 1.17 lakhs, as against the average ticket size of Bajaj Finance is 9,780 rupees. Imagine the kind of customers they would be servicing. What is the kind of level of digital or the kind of technology they are using now, and what is the reach? So this is where every organization is aspired to do. So when I say aspire to do, when you build this kind of a model, it actually reflects upon the employees as well, because you work for the most digital company. So what is the approach of Bajaj Finance? As if anybody can guess, what is the approach of Bajaj Finance? Anyway, I've been asking a lot of questions. Yeah, so the first approach is digital first approach. The world is changing, guys. Come on. I think for the first time, I'm in a meeting like this without a blazer. I thought that let me have a change for myself. Okay, I've come in a t-shirt. Okay, so let's look at the change. So that's how the Bajaj finance culture is all about. I was trying to reflect upon Bajaj because they are a fully changed, what do I say, a complete tsunami of changes happened in a very fast pace, addressing the complete retail segment of this country. And if at all, if any entity has to get evolved, I think that's a company which everybody has to follow. By saying that, I would reflect upon other companies which are built on values. For example, Sundaram Finance. The kind of values, the kind of culture what they bring in is what everyone or every organization should follow. Why would an employee work for 34 years? Now we are in a very different situation now. So we are in digital, we don't meet customers, okay, we don't engage with them, and we don't have any kind of a direct connection with the customers. But how do you do business? The technologies helped us so much that, okay, you can make decision in 5 minutes, and you can actually disburse the loan in 2 hours. So that's how we have evolved. So how do you build a culture upon? So I think I gave an example of entities which has got a very different legacy, which is actually completely changed into a digital and whatever is AI in a full avatar. So when I say this, so how do you bring in the culture with the employees? Employees largely stay back in the organization because you provide them the best of the best equipments or tools to operate and service. So, or otherwise, the organization actually imbibes you to take a larger responsibility or gives you a they would empower you with a lot of credit decisions. For example, Sundaram model is a particular employee would go and meet a client, and he takes a decision. It's a different kind of doing business. But as far as Bajaj is concerned, you have company which will make or give you a decision, let's say in the maybe around 2 3 minutes, you could actually decide a loan. So when you build organization with such values and culture, that is where you bring in a change. That is where you bring in longevity in terms of employees staying back to you. I come from Kotak. I don't know how many people know the highest attrition 2024 was Kotak Mahindra Bank. Okay, so why people left Kotak? The 50% was too high. So, but way back when I was there at Kotak, maybe around 2001, 2002, nobody left Kotak. Okay, so the organization changed, the value changed, but what really makes important is the leadership. What the culture actually comes in from the leader. At the same time, if you're able to use uh, the latest changes in the system available, I think that's where we are, and that's how we create a very great culture and value. Yep.
Thank you, Kumran. But one small, on a lighter side, uh, you have to bring answers, but you were asking questions. So you are allowed to give only answers, not to ask questions. Asking questions is my job. So we should not shift roles now.
Oh, absolutely.
One thing in culture I want
Next
to add,
round.
in organization, everything can be copied. Even if you bring a new process, systems, technology, everything can be copied. Only thing which cannot be copied in organization is culture.
100%. Yeah. Varun, since you come from a very strong IT background and all, representing a vendor community here, so maybe you would be the right person to ask or answer or clarify the question that I'm asking you. What are those criteria that you would recommend to an organization so that they evaluate better in terms of which vendor to select or which IT selections to be done? So, what would be the top three, top four items that, as an user, that I should be evaluating about a vendor before I bring them on board? Something which is very practical, some examples that you see every day. That will help.
It's a great question. I think the two or three things which people generally evaluate the technology stack on, and not just us but anybody. And I know a lot of people in this audience have used us, and I can actually see some of them in the room, and we've been in conversations. I think the number one is about the product value. So generally now the CTOs and the product teams in most NBFCs know what they want, and this is amazing. So they know that my sales team needs this app, this is my process. I need the screens literally like this. On the first page will only be the product information, second page will be mobile phone and OTP capture, third will be PAN number. So there is a lot of specificity in what is required from the product. I think number one, if the product delivers that from the specificity point of view, that is the first thing that people look for. The second is the change management. I think a lot of people, at least the economic buyers in NBFCs, want systems which are agile, want systems which can change both the product as well as ramp up, ramp down with their teams. So we are talking about flexible systems which can be tweaked at their end. So this is the second thing which they want, which is, can you give me a system which I don't need to come to you for? I can change it on my end. So a low code, no code platform, which hence reduces cost for them. The third thing that people generally look for is to say, hey, I have, and this goes back to the previous point, I have a lot of legacy systems. I don't want to change everything. Can you help me bridge the gap? Can you help me with a change management plan? Don't disrupt my business. My business has to go on. In fact, it has to grow. Can you help me change? Which means what? Which means partners have to come in and help train the teams. So you have to basically go and meet the salespeople. You have to go and meet the credit people, teach them the technology. Then after 3 months, 6 months, you have to come back and say, has it really helped? And then continuously change, because there is so much attrition. Like you said, 25-30% attrition is normal, which means a continuous understanding of the product. So I think that's the third thing which is change management, and of course, the regular things around cost is super important. This is a cost sensitive discussion. I think there are new innovative models which are coming in on cost, which basically can enable NBFCs to scale cost effectively. What I mean by that is like per file based costing or outcome based costing, which I mentioned. So if the files don't come, you don't pay, right? And if the file comes, which means your business is growing, then you pay. So I would urge you all to think about or propose to your technology providers also these kind of things, because this is a norm now, and I think most people are adopting it. So just wanted to give a few examples.
Yeah, thank you. In same line, Sumit, you would have possibly implemented a lot of systems and all that. But what is the measurement that you had in terms of you later on went back and told that yes, I took a right decision as a CEO of going with whatever XYZ vendor that you have gone. What was the measurement? That one measurement that you had.
See, I think it's a bit premature for us as an organization because we are still very early in that journey. But the measure, the cost of repetition would be how the efficiency has crept into the whole process. There are various types of efficiency measures, whether it is the speed, the accuracy, the quality of your decisioning, the outcome measures like whether the NPAs have come down because of the type of credit assessment that you're doing, and so on and so forth. There is an I think Varun just mentioned about outcome-based pricing. If it actually helps, so where we are in the organization life cycle today, we actually look at unit economics very very carefully, and if it actually helps us enhance that, it will come. But I think all of it will be ultimately clubbed under this overall umbrella of efficiency. You can define that through the prism of time, through the prism of cost, through the prism of convenience or accuracy of data. And the assumption I'm making is that most good or successful systems will address all of these categories in some shape or form. Um, at the cost of repetition, I would say again, I mean, 50 years ago, lending still used to happen. There were no computers, there were definitely no softwares, and so on and so forth. When people were making reasonably good decisions, even at that point in time, um, what what these processes do is to help organizations like ours scale at a rapid pace, and hence, what earlier organizations used to do in decades. Possibly, we've got examples of organizations moving to 3,000-4,000 crores in just under 2 years, because processes like this actually allow the efficiencies to continue and the scale to happen. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah,
those
yeah,
would
I
be
can,
my
I
sort
can
of
hear
points.
you. You're saying the measurement is the CEO will feel comfortable or feel ready to scale up. Till such time, possibly, he will still hold on his
and
horses.
and scale up in a sustainable and profitable manner, because I
That
mean
is
I've
given.
I've been quoted some prices in the past where my reaction was to just fall off the chair because of the amounts that were mentioned. Again, I hasten to add that our size is not conducive to having those kinds of conversations just yet, but nevertheless,
Yeah,
those
I'm
things.
with you on that. I run a small scale NBFC, so I can understand what an IT cost would really make us rethink about our own plans. Now, having said that, I can quickly ask Mr.
So, sorry, may I just, I'm interrupting you, my apologies. But one thing I did want to say is that it also should become ultimately an enabler to the business. Now, I use that, I'll give you a couple of examples. When we were talking to two large banks, the discussion went on for 6 months plus before we even moved a step further. Why? Because the systems were being implemented, the processes were being changed, and they were not ready to talk about this. And this I've seen in various shapes or forms. I used to work for a multinational bank earlier, across different parts of the world, and I've seen variants of that play out across countries, across different stages in the organization life cycle. So the only point I would make is that the organization somehow should not become a slave to the implementation of the system, almost like losing track of what it's initially supposed to be doing. So, yeah.
Sure. Sure. See, and today a lot of change requests is not initiated by our own employees or from within the company. Our customers are also compelling us to look for some changes. It's It's not that the change is only from us. Today, even my mother who use WhatsApp is so used to the WhatsApp that she wants most of the communication to happen WhatsApp, so that she can store it, she can record it, she can respond it timely, all that. So today, I don't know how many companies have really got some very solid system to engage with customers and all. But since yours is a new age company and yours is a new age business, and most of your clients are going to be tech savvy clients because you're on unsecured loans, you're into salary advances and all. So, what are the kind of services that you have implemented recently, and what is there in pipeline? Maybe if it's not confidential, you can let us know okay, what are the kind of demand that comes from customer for you to look at some changes within your company, and what is the current setup that you have.
Thank you. Quite interesting. We do three types of business. One is business unsecured loan, and we do supply chain financing. We also have marketplace for business unsecured loan. So, from a demand perspective, what you've seen is there's a customer who needs a loan, but predominantly he is hopping from lender A to lender B to lender C to lender D, where he doesn't get his fulfillment of his amount to run his business. So, that's one thing we have seen it from a business standpoint. Another standpoint, from a lender standpoint, what you have seen is probably there is 80% rejection where the entire team sits, the 1,000 member team sits and only rejecting the files. Only 10-20% gets passed through. Then imagine the cost they are spending on top of it. For each file, there might be internal credit bureau running, bank statement running. Imagine the cost for 80% of file they are spending on it. So this is one area of problem we are solving it, where we try to upfront itself do everything and try to give the qualified at both the ends, where customer also gets benefit out of it, where you don't opt from lender A to lender B, and then from a lender standpoint we patch it up. So this one benefit we bring to the table from the both the standpoints. Second thing, predominantly we have seen this industry is run by a DSS predominantly, rather than like, even though if we go for a physical digital team where keeps trying, there is a lot of DSA ecosystems are there. So we have given a complete app to the DSA to manage his business, where he can able to onboard his set of team, he can able to onboard complete his set of employees in the system, where he can able to manage where the complete dashboard visibilities are available for him. So this is one area of problem we have solved it right now. So from a customer standpoint, what we are seeing is predominantly, uh, can we able to do the decision on the fly when it's required for him, because he is running a business, he comes to, he need to buy a stock or need to invest something else. How long you are going to keep him hold on it? If you can able to do the decision within a day or in the next day, if you can able to disbursement, but end of the day you need to result into the collection also. So your collection system need to fall back and then take the decision out of it. So how smart, how intelligent your system can be there. That loophole you need to bring it back to the system once again. Then once again you can keep trying out with certain sets of new sets of rules, like keep 5% of cost or 1% of cost with put the policy decision and keep it separate and see how it is performing. That's another thing you can able to try it out. uh, for trying it out, don't try to bring a lot of AIs into the systems or blockchain into the system. If it adds business value to it, please do that. Otherwise there is no point in it. uh, I've also seen like there are vendors who charge FT and all. There are all sets of vendors are there who charge small, who charge mid, who charge high. Find out who is the best fitment for you. I've seen the industry having whatever product we need, it's already available, it's matured product is already available in the market. Only thing we need to see what is best fitment for us, and whichever product you're choosing, see that API capabilities are there on top of it, so that integration is the key right now, because we are not independent. We need to connect with multiple ecosystems. Whichever product vendor you're choosing, see that API ready. Thank you.
Sure. Maybe the last question for the day is to Kumaran Sampath. What are those advices that you would like to give? Advices, inputs, suggestions for an NBFC chief executive about what should be his typical approach towards choosing or accepting whatever with respect to IT automations and all that. What should be the typical approach? What are some solid advices that you have in mind for them?
Oh, thanks, Venki. Definitely, I will not ask questions now. I think I'll straight away go to the point. Being a marathoner myself, the one thing I would always say to the leaders is check your health of the company. How healthy is your company? When I say look at taking a health card all the time and see how does your company on the health side. When I say health side, it's not your own body, but the way you build your team, okay, how young your team is and what is the kind of innovation and the value add they bring into the system. And largely, a marathon is for a long run. And just go ask a question about a marathoner. Okay, how do you run 42 kilometers? So that's how a leader will be thinking. So when I say this, one thing I would always remember, and always my boss said it like this: history will always remind you, Kumaran, that how did you finish? Okay, so finishing a marathon is a very different dynamics altogether. So that's how the business also is all about. So you work in an organization for a long run. You would have joined as an executive, and you would actually end up being a CEO. Okay, I'm sure. I think the journey would have been very different for companies where we would have seen a bank in ICICI where a management trainee goes on to be the CEO, and so that's how the organization are built in. But the entire dynamics of business is completely changed today because we don't see employees working for so long in an organization. Okay, so we have people having different perspective. The world is evolved in a very different way, but leaders are very, very differently seen in an organization. So who are they? You would actually find them very unique in the group. Not all the employees would actually go on to be the CEOs. If you look at the legacies and if you look at the journey, they would look very different in their organization. Who are the people? They are the people who are ready to learn. They are the guys who are always grounded to understand the way reality is all about in the business. And Venki said, okay, what is the best advice, Kumaran, for the youngsters? I would definitely say, being in the vehicle finance business, I go and meet my customers every day. I go meet my dealers every day. It doesn't matter you're a CEO of the company. It doesn't matter you're sitting in an AC cabin. Absolutely not at all. I would say you have to be real in life. I think the world is full of reports and dashboards and whatnot, Zoom calls and all. It doesn't work like that. You have to be real. You have to go really get to know what exactly is happening in the market. When you're able to go meet customers, when you're able to go meet your vendors, that is how you are able to get to know what exactly is the situation of the organization is all about. And when is the last time, okay, you would have called the lowest of your leveled employee and spoken to him, what exactly is the difficulty he's facing? Leaders is not about decide and you actually delegate. It's all about taking the team together all the time and see how you can uh, evolve over a period of time with their own ideas and innovation. I would just add one last point to this. I worked with a wonderful organization called Reliance Capital. So we had one council called Innovation Council. So what does the Innovation Council mean was every employee had an opportunity to give one good idea. And that idea was not taken very lightly. It was actually had a forum. It had its own team to evaluate each of the ideas. And if the idea was implemented, and if that particular business was launched, and if that business made money, the employee had equal share of profit from the business. Guys, just imagine what it is. Sometimes in an organization, the employee would come and say, sir, this is like this, we need to do like this. We always have our own way. As leaders, we actually take our own path. We decide what is right for us. Okay, so just imagine, guys, having a team and council where you have a pool of ideas coming in, and if you're able to make it as a culture in the organization, that is how you build in as a leader, and that is how you actually build a very healthy situation. So to just sum it up, you find your left and right, and if you're able to take care of your left and right properly, I'm sure the organization also will be built very strong. And as leader, if you're able to be reachable, if you're able to be simple and humble, okay, I'm sure I think it'll reflect upon your organization, and people will love to be working with you for a long run. The most successful aspect of a leader is the vintage what you carry, or I would say the iteration percentage in an organization will straight away reflect upon the leader. So if you have a leader in an organization and if employees are going to be with you, continually growing, innovating themselves, and if you reach a kind of a journey together, that's the advice I would give to the upcoming CEOs. And last but not the least, as Venki said, as a company, IGMA Capital is into vehicle loans. And very shortly, we're going to launch a leasing business in India, which will largely focus on the EV segment. Thank you so much.
I was asking for some input from him or waiting for some search words. So he was talking about the Innovation Council in Reliance Capital, where the employees bring about the new ideas. I think I'm the maximum winner of the Innovation Council's awards for last 3-4 years. And whenever it started, I think I took away 70 to 80% of the prize money which was reserved by Reliance Capital. So he helped me to do a what you call and self-introduction on that aspect. But again, thank you, Kumaran. Thank you, all the panelists who has joined us on a very short time, and thank you for the participants who had given their patient time to us, listening to us, and all that. But possibly we'll share our coordinates and rest of other things. So if there's going to be any other questions that you wanted to ask specific to the panelists, I think we'll encourage that. And with that small things, we call this session as a the final words and all that. So thank you for the organizers. I think we'll ask them to take parallelly. So thank you all. So see you next time.
Thank you for the insightful session, sir, and also all the best and congratulations for your new business, sir. With that, I request Venkatesh Kannappan, sir, to please present the momentum to the speakers. Mr. Sumit Sharma. Mr. Kumaran Sampath. And Mr. Balaji TK. And Mr. Varun Kular. I now invite Mr. Abhinav Chaudhary to please present the memento to Mr. Venkatesh Kannappan, sir. Okay, I request everybody to please stand for a group picture.